Hello everyone, welcome back to Triple Play Analytics. Today we're going to be talking about the Stanley Cup Playoffs and the importance of finishing a series in a certain amount of time and the rest you get after the series and also after the season. So in the Stanley Cup Playoffs, it's every series, either the divisional round, the first round, the divisional round, and then the conference round. Each one of these series is a best of seven matchup between two teams that have qualified for the playoffs. The important thing about this is your first round is almost always interdivisional. The second round is usually interdivisional, but sometimes can be between two different divisions. And the final round is between teams in the same conference, and then obviously you have the Stanley Cup Finals. But I'm going to take the finals out of the picture because the Stanley Cup Finals are their own beast. You're playing against a team that's in a completely different conference. Instead, I'm going to be looking at everything before that. So the conference round, the divisional round, and, if we're following football terms, the wild card round. So what's extremely important is rest. So before the season, you usually get between two, maybe 3, sometimes 4, sometimes even 5 days of rest. This is important because rest can either be a hockey player's best friend if it's, in that good time zone, or it could be their worst enemy. For example, with 2 days of rest, the difference between winning a series and losing a series in the first round after the season when you have 2 days of rest is almost 10% where you'd win. 2 days of rest is actually a good thing compared to 3 days of rest, where if you have 3 days of rest, you actually have a more likely chance of losing the series. With 4 days of rest, it hedges towards losing the series, but it's still pretty equal. And in the rare case of 5 days of rest, which only happened in the 2015 season, they lost the series. But then as you go further on, let's say after the first round, how much rest do you get? Well, 3 days of rest is once again the enemy. You have almost half that chance is of winning the percent. So you can win a series after 3 days of rest is only 8%, while losing it after 3 days of rest, 16%. Winning with 1 day of rest after versus losing is the same. But then let's say you have 4 days. Let's say you win the series really quickly. You win it in 5 or maybe 4 games. You sweep your opponent. Well, usually with 4 days of rest, there's been only in the past 3 years, there's been one instance where the team has won that next series. If they lose, there are 5 instances of it. And as we continue round 2, 2 days of rest still proves to be the best option because you have a 25% chance of winning the next series. There are 2 very rare cases, the Chicago Blackhawks and the Anaheim Ducks, where both teams had 8 and 9 days of rest. This happened in 2015 when the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup. And after round 3, this is right before the Stanley Cup Finals, the data is a little bit more sparse here, but you get 3 days of rest is good, 4 days of rest is a toss-up. 5 days of rest is bad, 6 days of rest is bad. So what this can kind of say is, hockey players are used to having 2 days of rest. 3 days of rest is rare, 4 days of rest is kind of after a bye week, and anything after that, it gets them out of sync. But, that being said, let's also look at the series length, because that can also play into the picture. You can sweep a series, but only have 2 days of rest after. That could be because there was a series that all series went 4 or 5 games. Or you could win your series in 7 games, but have also 2 days of rest. You could win 7, go to a best of 7, go all 7, have 2 days of rest. You could win your series in 5 and have 4 days of rest. It's very interesting because it also depends on other teams. So in the first round, most series will go to 6 games. Very rarely will you see a sweep, and very rarely you'll see a best of 7, game 7. The second round, you'll actually get more game 7 series, even though a game 6 deciding game isn't that unlikely. And then round 3, 6 and 7 games. That's usually how it goes. More opting to 7 because teams are able to make better adjustments. And then finally in the Stanley Cup, for the past 3 years straight, they've all gone to 6 games. So from this, a takeaway we can get is rest and series length are very important. If you sweep a series and you get too much rest, that can actually hurt you. Otherwise, if your opponent gets the same amount of rest as you and you sweep a series, well then you're on even terms. So rest is really something that should be looked at, and and teams should understand how to properly condition themselves when they have a long break. This can be seen after the All-Star break for some players and for some teams, and after the mandatory bye week. Sometimes teams will get off and running after the bye week because they're rejuvenated, but sometimes teams will start sluggishly also because they're not used to that break. So, all in all, it seems that rest is extremely important in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I strongly believe after 2 days of rest, a team is better off playing than 3 days of rest unless it's in the conference finals. Within 3 days of rest is the best option because it allows them to heal. Thanks for watching. If you want more in-depth analysis of this, see a few more graphs, and also hear about some other stuff in the sports world, please take a look at the long version of this. Thanks. Have a good day.